Okay, here we go. We did the crowdfunding roundup. Now, what are my thoughts on the games personally speaking? Good to buy, good to pass on, ranking them? Let's go. 6+1. Special mention here, Age of Steam, because I didn't actually cover it on the crowdfunding roundup because I forgot it like a dum-dum. But I look at this and, I don't see this with nearly as much on the Euro side of things. I don't even, talk 18xx, pick up and deliver, anything along these lines of things. But the whole thing with this campaign is 16 map expansions. I just look at this and I go, why? If you're going to look at me and tell me I don't need 16 different boxes of Marvel United, I'm going to make the argument to that at least I can get through those played. And so for a 120-minute game, to get your quote-unquote money's worth, because that's what I'm always told on crowdfunding, that, got to get your money's worth, Chris. That's a fork ton of money. $113. Great value, maybe, for 16, $10 a map, but right? You're never going to play any of this stuff. At least I can make halfway of an argument for Marvel United to get played. So we just got to mention that. I'm going to get a lot of hate for anyone that actually watches this video, which is going to be like 4 people. Rotation Rumble, number 6 here. Again, this was one of my sleeper hits. At the same time, I can see it also just not being as deep as you may want. Like, yeah, you can combo. Is it actually going to be meaningfully engaging? And that's what I can't tell without knowing what a lot of these cards are. And this, deck construction-ish vibe worries me a little bit. I think it's doing something clever. But what I'm also concerned about, though, price point-wise, is you have 8 two-player decks there and a bunch of Kickstarter exclusive expansions for $80. You're losing me when your price is the price of a deluxe Euro on crowdfunding. I love the idea of this. I just don't know the actuality. And for that much, for the amount of content I can get otherwise for something like a Mind Bug that is a little bit more tried and true, well, again, I'm going to have to wait and see. And that's tempting, exclusive captains, but how different, how special are captains going to be? And so if you really want your game to go well, that's not a ton of information or not a real incentive for people to get it here. It's great that you funded. I know why you did it too. We'll talk about another bigger campaign that's doing the same thing in a second. But again, if I can't tell, then you know what? I'm just going to pass right now. And I want to like this more. It's on my save list, as you can see here. So take that for what you will. Number 5, Allplay. Because again, I trust them to put out solid games. Spectacular is not what I'm sure of, though. And that's the big question mark, because the ones that have been shown, none of them are personally my fancy. I'm not a big word person. I'm very selective on my trick takers. High Rise doesn't really appeal to me as much as I would like, because I have trouble getting Sky Rise even played from Roxley as a arguably potentially superior game in a different way. So I don't know. 5 other mystery games. There are some intriguing concepts here as you're scrolling down, including the one that was alluding to Battlestar Galactica right there. But again, if you don't know, I don't know when I have all of the information sometimes, see previously mentioned game, whether or not I'm going to like it. So if I don't know more about it than what's there with a question mark, I can in no way get that. So we'll see. Number 4, I go splitsies on this. Mixed, whatever you want to call it, Lifeboats. Because you really idealistically need 5 or 6 people that hate each other to play this game. I think my kids would love this game. They would constantly vote me. I would get not voted in terms of the boat. I would get voted off the boat. I would get voted to, get capsized and killed. That would be me. But I don't know if I can justify it, because I think you have to have a super special group for this. And with, again, the price point is not bad at the standard version, and the limited version even isn't really bad. So again, I just look at this and I go, I don't know. Is this a pipe dream? This is a pipe dream game, I guess. And so that'd be my biggest concern, is that I just wouldn't actually get the actual fun out of it that I think I could have, even though it's one of those that if this is your thing, I feel like this is your thing in terms of the voting and voting and voting and take that and take that and take that and King of the Hill and just get revenge on people that you don't like sort of style of game. So take that for what it is. Now, this is probably on the list, the one that I'm most likely to end up with my collection at the end of all of this. And that's River Rats here. I like the idea of a cooperative, the gang, with a different asymmetric power situation based on suits and an overarching hand that you're trying to beat as you cooperatively make your own hand, as opposed to try and just rank order like the game. So for someone who, again, probably doesn't have the right group for this, because I don't really think you can play this very well, or you're going to get nearly as much enjoyment with this if you don't know poker. If you don't know poker, you might as well just completely and utterly burn that money up if you're looking at buying this, if you're listening to my opinion whatsoever. I'm not really sure I need the blue and the red pack, as well as a playmat or custom poker chips, even though that's kind of cool, because I don't think there's really any difference between the red and the blue decks. It's a deck of cards with just different backs. So you could even potentially play this with a print and play, or even a regular deck of cards. But I like this just like I like my Regicide. So a little bit of asymmetry, the 54 card premium playing deck. And the big question I have with this one is that I don't know if you're going to be able to get this at retail, right? I could see it doing a Regicide gang situation. I could also see it not. And that's part of the reason I am dabbling, waiting to see whether or not I'm going to end up backing this one. And all signs are probably pointing to, well, like I said at the beginning, stop at Kickstarter, you're drunk. No, I didn't say that, but I said the one most likely to end up in my collection. Now, I mean, we got to talk about it, right? I spent nearly 10 minutes on the roundup when this launched talking about my pros, cons, and everything else in between on Battle Monsters. I freaking want this game. I freaking want it. At the same time, I want it like a Foundations of Rome. I also want it like a hole in my respective boat in Lifeboats there, in the sense that I'm never going to get this played. I can't get Mythic Battles Pantheon played enough to justify it, and I've owned it for years. And so, yes, the aesthetic is nice. I love these miniatures. These miniatures are so much better than some of the other ones that I have in that regard. The fact that, that's my biggest gripe, is that they make them too small that you can't tell the details. They've done their work on this. You're giving me the exclusive as the reason to back it, and it's just an insane price point. Again, it's not that it's the price point in and of itself. And I think partially, like I said in the video, it's an expectations thing. It's an expectations of what I thought it was going to be and what it ended up being. And I've always been very strong, very vocal, and very idiotic about Team Standee, and I stand by that in this sense. So this is nothing different in that regard. I am not a big fan of this. And I beg the question with this one. Why, on this one, did you go Kickstarter exclusive? Why didn't you do it with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Why didn't you do it with one of the other games in that regard? And that just kind of cheeses me off, because you're doing it in the one campaign that's the super, super freaking expensive one with a super, super freaking expensive exclusive. So I don't like that, personally speaking. I don't like you're just going to randomly decide when you're going to do exclusives. Either do them or don't do them, in my opinion. In my humble, idiotic, I have no idea, because I'm a moron, as I'm always told. And $400 for this. I don't think it's any different than Mythic Battles Pantheon, but that was a Mythic Battles Pantheon all in, that you're not just getting 4 Titans with some deluxifications. Like, the amount of figures and gameplay content you got there, again, it's a value comparison. It might be easier for you to get this because this gameplay is a lot more streamlined. It's a lot more intuitive. Restoration Games puts out a much better rule book. They're one of the few companies that actually gives a freaking darn about having something cohesive, that you don't need to go watch somebody play it to actually learn how to play it. Which, again, pisses me off that our hobby is so designed that way, but that's a whole nother soapbox as a whole. But ultimately, this is Foundations of Rome for me. I'm not going to be able to justify buying this. I'd love it, and I'd love to piecemeal it. And so, again, I can't tell you one of them in my collection, but I'm also a fan of these guys up here, and I'm not as big a fan of all these guys down here. So, again, another pipe dream game, but realistically, no. It'd be eating up space and dust right now. So I got to give that a pass. And you know what? This is my surprise of the week. Titan Zero from King Raccoon. Now, my problem is King Raccoon, because Tsukiyumi was not as well received and has had a whole bunch of production issues, if we recall what they have done previously. Their other one, EOS Island of Angels, as well, has got very mixed reviews in terms of just doing too much, and again, just a lot of criticism of what should have been super freaking awesome conceptually in that way. And so that's what I worry about with this. This is everything that I want, though, right? Standees, cooperative, hard-based, not too overstaying the welcome scenarios, asymmetric heroes to build and upgrade. and it's straightforward. It's unique. So I look at this and I go, man, this looks freaking awesome. But again, you got some exclusives that are going to be a little bit harder to get. You got some stretch goals that I'm a little bit worried about in terms of availability later on. So that'd be my big concern. Is it going to be too simple? Or is it going to be like sort of a Ragnarok's to my Santorini, where you already have a bunch of good hard cooperative games, Chris? Why do you need this one? This one's going to be subpar. And I can't tell. I can't tell. I can't tell. I like the dice mechanism. I like all the info. But honestly, I'm going to have to watch some video to see the flow, because I could see myself also not loving this as much as I ideally love this in my head. But that's why, again, it's at the top of the list, because I think conceptually, it's perhaps my favorite one this week as a whole. So Titan Zero, there you go. That's it. That is my exclusive look and my thoughts about, well, is it worth it or not? Am I going to end up with it or not? And a little bit of personal subjective opinion that I tried to not do as much of in the crowdfunding roundup, when I just try and present the facts rather than the straight up, I'm an idiot, subjective opinions. There you go. Thanks for watching. Peace out. See you later.